The silence of Enoch's bedchamber was a fragile thing, a thin membrane of peace stretched over the humming chaos of the world. He slept, but it was the shallow, restless sleep of a man whose thoughts were never truly his own. And on this night, the membrane tore. Two figures materialized from the shadows, not walking through the door, but simply becoming beside his bed. They were extraordinary, built on a scale that dwarfed any man Enoch had ever seen on earth. Their presence was a pressure, a physical weight in the air that stole the breath from his lungs even in his slumber. Their faces were not made of flesh and bone but of captured light, radiating with the blinding intensity of the sun at high noon. Their eyes were not orbs but furnaces, burning like twin lamps from which fire seemed to spill, licking at the edges of his perception. When they breathed, flames emerged from their mouths, not consuming, but illuminating. Their garments were a cascade of shimmering feathers, and from their backs, arms of pure gold unfolded into majestic wings that glowed softly in the gloom. They stood beside him, a silent, awesome judgment. A voice, soft, yet resonant enough to shake the very foundation of the house, called his name. Enoch. He startled awake, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. The sight of them, impossibly bright, impossibly real, sent a jolt of pure terror through him. He was paralyzed, a mouse under the gaze of two celestial eagles. "Enoch," the other repeated, and the voice was a gentle assurance, a balm on his frayed nerves. "Be of good cheer, do not be afraid." Afraid? The word was laughably inadequate. He was undone. "The everlasting God has sent us to you," the first one continued, "and today you shall ascend with us into the heavens." Before he could process the words, before he could form a question or a protest, they lifted him. Their touch was not solid, but felt like being enveloped in warm light. They placed him upon their wings, and the world fell away. The roof of his home became transparent, then vanished. They soared, carried not by the wind but on the very currents of existence, rising above the sleeping earth. Clouds became a carpet beneath them, then a distant memory. They ascended past the thin air, into the cold, silent realm of the ether, until they reached the first heaven. It was a place of impossible architecture and shimmering light, where the Elohim, the Radiant Ones, moved with purpose. It was here they began to unveil the mysteries, the fundamental truths of human and divine existence, and it was here that Enoch learned the story of the fall, not of man, but of the angels themselves. He saw it as if it were happening before him, a vision projected onto the fabric of reality. He saw the early days of humanity, when the world was young and daughters were born to men, creatures of such breathtaking beauty that their very existence was a song. The angels, the children of heaven known as the Watchers, looked down from their celestial perch and were consumed by desire. It was a feeling alien to them, a hot, sharp yearning that was both terrifying and intoxicating. He heard their whispers, echoing across time. "Let's choose wives from among the daughters of men," they said to each other, their voices laced with a dangerous new hunger. "Let's have children with them." Semjaza, their leader, a being of immense power and wisdom, felt a tremor of doubt. Was this truly wisdom, or was it a grand folly? He looked at the eager, burning faces of his brethren, and voiced his fear. "I'm afraid you won't all follow through with this," he said, his voice a low rumble of caution. "That this desire is a fleeting madness, and if you falter, I alone will be left to bear the great punishment for this sin." What did that punishment even look like? He couldn't imagine it, and that ignorance was the most terrifying thing of all. But their desire had hardened into resolve. A chorus of voices answered him, unified and absolute. "Let's swear an oath together. Let's bind ourselves to this plan, so no one can back out." And so they did. They gathered, 200 of them in total, a legion of light, willfully turning toward the dark. They swore a solemn oath, a pact sealed with their divine nature, binding themselves to their shared transgression. During the days of Jared, they descended, a cascade of falling stars landing upon the summit of Mount Hermon. They named it Mount Hermon, the Mountain of the Oath, a monument to their unified rebellion. The names of their leaders echoed in Enoch's mind, like a funeral dirge. Semjaza, their chief, and his captains, Araka, Ram, Kabul, Tamil, Ramal, Danal, Ezekiel, Barak, Asael, Amaros, Betel, Anel, Zachiel, Samsel, Satel, Turel, Jomjael, and Sariel. Each commanded a group of 10, a hierarchy of sin. Together, they and the rest of the 200 angels walked among humanity. They took wives, each choosing one, and in doing so, they defiled themselves, mingling the eternal with the ephemeral. They taught their wives forbidden arts, magic spells, seductive charms, the secrets of root cutting, and the hidden knowledge of plants. A darkness began to seep into the world, a wisdom it was not ready for. The women became pregnant, but their offspring were not human. They gave birth to giants, the Nephilim, enormous beings whose height reached for the clouds. These giants were born with an insatiable hunger. They consumed all of humanity's resources, the grain, the livestock, the wine. When the humans could no longer provide, the giants turned on them, their creators, and began to devour them. A tide of horror washed over the earth. They sinned against the birds of the air, the beasts of the field, the reptiles that crawled, and the fish in the sea. Their hunger was absolute, their cruelty boundless. They even began to eat each other's flesh and drink the blood of their own kind, a gruesome parody of life. The very soil of the earth, soaked in blood and tears, cried out, its silent voice accusing the lawless ones before the throne of God. The corruption spread. Azazel, one of the most ambitious of the Watchers, taught humanity how to forge weapons, swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. He revealed the secrets of metals, the art of working them into instruments of death and vanity. He introduced the crafting of bracelets and ornaments, the use of antimony to beautify the eyes, the value of precious stones, and the alchemy of dyes. What began as a quest for beauty twisted into a celebration of vanity and violence. Wickedness spread like wildfire. People, guided by their fallen teachers, indulged in every sin, committing fornication and becoming thoroughly corrupt. Semjaza taught enchantments and the severing of roots. Armoros taught how to undo spells, a necessary art in a world now filled with them. Barakijal shared the secrets of astrology, turning the celestial guides into tools of fortune-telling. Kabel taught the meaning of constellations, Ezekiel the knowledge of clouds, Arakiel the signs of the earth, Shamiel the signs of the sun, and Sariel the course of the moon. They had given humanity the keys to the universe, but humanity had used them to unlock their own damnation. As humanity perished under the weight of this terrible new knowledge, their cries of suffering rose up, a chorus of agony that pierced the heavens. From their celestial vantage point, the archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, looked down. What they saw shattered their eternal composure. Blood flowed like rivers across the earth, and lawlessness was a plague with no cure. They turned to each other, their radiant faces etched with despair. "The earth, once so peaceful," they said, their voices a symphony of sorrow, now cries out with the voices of the suffering. Their screams have reached the very gates of heaven, begging for justice. The souls of the dead, a ghostly choir, pleaded with them. "Please," they whispered, "take our case before the Most High." In anguish, the 4 archangels approached the throne of God. "O Lord of lords, God above all gods, King of kings," they began, their words both a prayer and a report. "Your glorious throne has stood for all generations, and your name is holy and blessed forever. You created everything. All things are under your control. Nothing is hidden from you. You see what Azazel has done, how he has led the world into darkness, teaching forbidden knowledge, secrets that were meant to remain in heaven. You see Semjaza, who you gave authority, and how he has led his followers to earth. They have taken human women, defiling themselves, and from their sin, giants were born. Now the earth is soaked in blood and filled with evil. The souls of the dead cry out, their sorrowful voices cannot be silenced, they weep for justice. And you, Lord, you know everything before it happens. You see this devastation, but you allow it. Why? You haven't told us what to do." The question hung in the vastness of heaven, heavy and unanswered. Then, the Most High, the Holy and Great One, finally spoke. His voice was not sound but a force, a thunder that resonated with absolute authority. He sent Uriel to the son of Lamech. "Go to Noah," he commanded. Tell him in my name to hide himself. The end is near. The whole earth is about to be destroyed by a great flood. Everything will be wiped out. Tell him, so he may escape and his descendants may survive to carry on the generations of the world." Then the Lord turned to Raphael. "Find Azazel, bind his hands and feet, cast him into the darkness, take him to the desert of Dudael, dig a deep pit, and throw him inside. Pile jagged rocks over him. Let him remain there, buried in eternal night, so he may never see the light again. On the day of final judgment, he will be thrown into the eternal fire. But for now, heal the earth, cleanse it from the corruption the angels brought. Announce the healing, so that not all of humanity will perish from the secrets the Watchers revealed. The whole earth has been ruined by what Azazel taught. Let him bear the weight of all sin." He spoke to Gabriel, his command heavy with righteous fury. "Go forth against the unholy offspring, the rebellious and corrupt children born from sin. Destroy the children of the Watchers. Set them against each other. Let them battle and wipe each other out, for their days are numbered." His gaze was unwavering. "And, as for their fathers, the Watchers, let no plea they make on behalf of their children be heard. They hoped for eternal life, thinking their monstrous offspring might live for 500 years. Their hopes will be shattered." Finally, the Lord turned to Michael. "Bind Semjaza and his companions, those who tainted themselves by uniting with women, when they have witnessed their sons killing each other, when they see the destruction of those they loved, bind them tight in the depths of the earth. They will remain there, imprisoned for 70 generations, until the final judgment. On that day, they will be thrown into the fiery abyss, into torment and eternal imprisonment. Anyone condemned to destruction will be bound with them, sharing their fate. Wipe away the spirits of the corrupt and the children of the Watchers, for they have wronged humanity. Let all wickedness be cleansed from the face of the earth. Let righteousness and truth take root, a new beginning where justice and joy will grow forever." The Lord's voice softened, filled with a Creator's promise. The righteous will survive, they will thrive, and have thousands of descendants. They will live in peace, from youth to old age, without fear. The earth will be tended with righteousness, flourishing with trees, and overflowing with blessings. Vines will yield an abundance of wine, and the seed sown will bear 1,000-fold. Cleanse the earth from all oppression, from every evil, sin, and godlessness. Then all the children of humanity will become righteous. Every nation will adore and praise me. The earth will be purified from all defilement, sin, and torment. Never again will I send such suffering upon it, from generation to generation, forevermore. In those days, I will open the heavenly storehouses of blessings and rain them down upon the earth, rewarding the work of humanity. Truth and peace will walk hand in hand, lasting throughout all the days of the world. All this Enoch saw, a terrible and beautiful tapestry of ruin and redemption. Before these events, he had been a man apart, hidden away. No one knew where he had gone. His life was intertwined with the very Watchers who were now condemned, and he spent his days among the holy ones. "I, Enoch," he whispered into the vision, "bless the Lord of Majesty, the King of all ages." Then the vision shifted, and the Watchers themselves summoned him. "Enoch, the scribe," they called, their voices stripped of their former arrogance, now thin and reedy with fear. "Go. Deliver this message to the Watchers of heaven, those who abandoned their holy and eternal dwelling. Tell them, you have brought great destruction to the world. You will have no peace, no forgiveness for your sins. Though you cherish your children, you will witness their violent deaths. You will cry out and lament over their destruction for all eternity, but peace and mercy will never be yours." Enoch, the mortal scribe, went to Azazel, the fallen one. He found him not in a desert pit, but in a state of spiritual limbo, already feeling the chains that were to come. With a voice firm and resolute, Enoch delivered the verdict. "Azazel, you will know no peace. A harsh sentence has been passed against you. You will be bound for eternity. You will find no mercy, no request will be granted. This is because of the wickedness you have taught, the ungodly ways you revealed." He then gathered all the other fallen Watchers. A deep, bone-chilling fear took hold of them. They trembled, gripped by a terror they had never known in their eternal existence. In their desperation, They turned to the mortal man they had once looked down upon. They pleaded with him, begging him to write a petition for them, to beg for forgiveness on their behalf. They hoped he could read their plea before the Lord of heaven, for they could no longer lift their own faces to the heavens, crushed by the shame of their condemnation. So Enoch did as they asked. He wrote down their pleas, their sorrow, their desperate desire for mercy. Afterward, he went to the waters of Dan, south and west of Mount Hermon, the very place their descent had begun. There, by the water's edge, he read their petition aloud, his voice carrying their sorrow until exhaustion overcame him, and he fell asleep. As he slept, visions came crashing down upon him, vivid and filled with the unyielding fire of judgment. A voice echoed in his dream, a divine command. "Bring this message to the sons of heaven," it thundered. "Rebuke them for their actions." When Enoch awoke, he returned to the watchers. They were gathered together, weeping in a place called Abel, their faces hidden in grief. With solemn authority, Enoch recounted the visions he had seen. "This is the book of righteousness," he began, his voice ringing with the power of the one who sent him. "I wrote your petition, but in my vision, I saw the truth. Your request will not be granted. Not now, not ever. Judgment has been passed. From this moment on, you shall never ascend to heaven again. You will remain bound to the earth, confined in its depths for all the days of the world's existence. And before this, you will witness the destruction of your beloved sons. You will have no joy in them. They will perish before your eyes, cut down by the sword. Even if you weep, even if you pray, your pleas will not be heard." Then, in his vision, the dream self of Enoch was taken again. Clouds beckoned him, a mist surrounded him, stars and lightning sped him forward, and winds lifted him into the heavens. He neared a towering wall made of pure crystal, surrounded by tongues of fire. Fear gripped him, cold and sharp. He passed through the flames into a grand house made entirely of crystal. The walls, the floor, the foundation all shimmered with an otherworldly brilliance. The ceiling was a canvas of the starry sky, streaked with lightning, and between the flashes, he saw fiery cherubim. Flames blazed around the house, its doors consumed with fire. As he stepped inside, he was overwhelmed by a paradox of sensation. It was as hot as a forge and as cold as glacial ice. There was no joy here, only a profound, soul-crushing dread. Fear took hold of him, and his body trembled uncontrollably until he collapsed, face down. As he lay prostrate, he saw another house, even greater than the first, its enormous gate standing open. It was built not of crystal, but from living flames of fire. Its splendor was beyond words. The floor was a river of fire, and above, stars and lightning flashed across a ceiling of blazing flame. And there, at the heart of it all, was a throne. Towering and majestic, it gleamed like hoarfrost, its wheels shining like the burning sun. Surrounded by cherubim, streams of fire poured from beneath it, so fierce he could not bear to look. Upon that throne sat the great glory, his robe brighter than the sun, purer than the whitest snow. Not even the angels could behold his face, so great was his majesty. Flames encircled him, and a vast fire burned before him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him, yet he required no counsel. The holiest ones stood by him, never leaving his side. Still trembling, Enoch lay with his face to the ground. Then the Lord called to him with his own voice, "Come, Enoch, and listen to my words." One of the holy ones came and lifted him, guiding him toward the entrance. His face was bowed low. "Do not be afraid, Enoch," a voice said, strong and full of power. "Righteous man, faithful scribe, come closer. Go and tell the watchers of heaven who sent you to plead for them. It is not for men to plead for you, but for you to have interceded for men. Why did you abandon the high, holy, and eternal heaven? Why did you lay with women, defiling yourselves, giving birth to giants? You were once pure spiritual beings, living eternal lives. You stained yourselves with the blood of women and produced children of flesh and blood, craving the desires of mortals who die and fade away. I gave men wives so they could bear children, but you were not like them. You were spiritual, living eternally. You were never meant for death, and thus I gave you no wives, for the spiritual dwell in heaven. But now, the giants, your offspring, shall be called evil spirits on the earth, and here shall be their cursed home. From their bodies, evil spirits have come forth. These spirits will dwell among men, bringing havoc. They will afflict, oppress, destroy, and make war. They need no food but are ever hungry and thirsty, and their endless cravings will cause misery. They will rise up against men and women, for they are born of both. Since the day the giants were slain, their spirits have wandered the earth, destructive and relentless. They shall continue to torment until the day of the final judgment, when all will be brought to an end, for the watchers and the godless alike. Tell them this: you once dwelt in heaven, but not all mysteries were revealed to you. You grasped at forbidden knowledge, and through your hard hearts, you made these things known to women. Through this, great evil now covers the earth. Therefore, tell them, you shall find no peace. The vision ended, leaving Enoch breathless and shaking, the words of God still ringing in his soul, a final, irrevocable sentence upon the fallen. He was no longer just a man, but a vessel for a truth so terrible it could break the world. And in many ways, it already had. Enoch's journey was far from over. He was a man untethered from the world he knew, a traveler in the impossible landscapes of creation. He was taken to a place where the inhabitants blazed like fire, but could appear as men at will. He was brought to a vast mountain whose summit scraped the roof of heaven itself. There, he saw the celestial storehouses, the places where the lights and stars were kept, and the deepest vaults where thunder, lightning, and fiery arrows were stored alongside a flaming sword of judgment. He was led to living waters and to the blazing fire in the west where the sun went to rest each evening. He came to a river of fire whose flames flowed like water into the great western sea. He saw the great rivers of the world and journeyed into a profound darkness, a place where no living creature could walk. He beheld mountains cloaked in winter's shadow, and the source from which the waters of the deep abyss flowed. He saw the mouths of every river, and the entrance to the vast emptiness below. Was this what it meant to be truly alive? To see the very architecture of reality? Or was he already dead, a ghost drifting through the machinery of God? He saw the storerooms of all the winds, and observed how they were arranged to shape creation upon the strong foundation of the earth. He saw the planet's cornerstone, and the four winds that upheld the earth, and the firmament of the sky, pillars standing between the mortal and divine realms. He watched the heavenly winds turn the sun and guide the stars in their precise, unending dance. He went further, to a place burning day and night, with 7 magnificent mountains of precious stone. The central mountain rose high into the heavens, a natural throne for God himself, made of pure alabaster with a sapphire summit. Flames burned before him, and beyond these mountains lay the end of the great earth. There, he saw where the heavens were completed, a deep abyss filled with columns of heavenly fire, stretching beyond measure. Beyond that abyss, he found a place with no sky above, and no solid ground below, an empty, desolate wasteland. In this terrifying void, he saw 7 stars, burning like great mountains, imprisoned. He asked the angel guiding him, the serene and powerful Uriel, about them. "This is the end of heaven and earth," Uriel explained, his voice calm amidst the chaos. "This is the prison for the stars and the heavenly host. These stars, which roll over the fire, are those who disobeyed the Lord's command. They failed to rise at their appointed time. Because of their disobedience, he became angry and bound them here until their guilt is fully judged, even for 10,000 years. Uriel gestured to the desolate landscape. "And here will stand the angels who defiled themselves with human women. Their spirits, now taking many forms, lead mankind astray, causing them to worship demons as gods. Here they shall remain until the great day of judgment, and the women they led astray will become sirens, their cursed beauty calling men to their doom." Enoch alone saw this vision, the end of all things. No other man would witness what he had seen. His journey continued. He was taken to a place of utter chaos, where he saw 7 stars bound together, burning like giant mountains. "For what sin are they bound?" Enoch asked. Uriel replied, "These are among those that transgressed the commandment of the Lord. They are bound here until the 10,000 years of their sin have been fulfilled." From there, they went to a place even more dreadful, a prison of angels, where an immense fire blazed and cleaved down into an abyss filled with enormous columns of flame. Its vastness was beyond comprehension. "Why are you so frightened, Enoch?" Uriel asked gently. Enoch could only whisper, "Because of this fearful place, and the sight of such intense pain." Uriel's response was simple and chilling. "This is the prison of the angels. They will be held here forever." Next, Uriel showed him a great mountain in the west, and inside it, 4 hollow places, deep, wide, and impossibly smooth. They were dark and frightening. Raphael, another of the holy angels, explained, "These hollow places have been created for the spirits of the dead, so that all the souls of the children of men may gather here until the day of their judgment." Enoch saw the spirits of the dead, and their voices rose to heaven, pleading for justice. He saw the spirit of Abel, murdered by his brother Cain, crying out for vengeance. Raphael explained the separation of the hollows, one for the righteous with a bright spring of water, another for sinners who died without judgment, held in great pain, a third for those who cry out for vengeance, and a fourth for the wholly corrupt, who will not be destroyed on Judgment Day, but will never rise again. His travels took him to the ends of the earth, past fiery mountains and grand peaks. He saw the tree of wisdom, from which Adam and Eve had eaten, its fragrance unmatched, its fruit like clusters of grapes. He saw the portals of heaven from which the stars emerged, and he journeyed north, south, west, and east, seeing the portals of the winds that brought frost and dew, rain and desolation. Through it all, a single prophecy began to form in his mind, a vision not for his generation, but for a distant one yet to come. "The Holy Great One will emerge from his dwelling," Enoch prophesied, the words flowing through him. "The eternal God will set foot upon Mount Sinai. All will be struck with terror. The lofty mountains will shake. The high hills will be flattened, melting like wax before a fire. The earth will be torn apart, and all upon it will perish, a final judgment on all humanity. Yet he will grant peace to the righteous. He will protect the elect, and show them mercy. They will belong to God, be prospered, and blessed. He will shine light upon them, and make peace with them. Behold, he comes with thousands of his holy ones to execute judgment upon all." This was the core of his message, the purpose of his journey. He was a witness to the grand and terrible mechanics of divine justice. He received 3 great parables, visions of wisdom he was to share. The first told of the day the righteous would be gathered, and the sinners judged, expelled from the earth. A righteous one would be revealed, and a brilliant light would shine upon the chosen. "But where will the sinners hide?" Enoch asked the cosmos. "Where will those who denied the Lord find rest? It would have been better for them if they had never been born." In this vision, the mighty rulers of the earth would be toppled, unable to stand before the holy. One day, a whirlwind carried Enoch away again, placing him at the edge of the heavens. There, he saw the dwelling places of the holy, where they prayed and interceded for humankind, with righteousness flowing like an endless river. In that sacred place, he saw the chosen one, the Son of Man, the embodiment of righteousness and faith. At that moment, the Son of Man was named in the presence of the Lord of Spirits, his name established before the creation of the sun or stars. He would be a support for the righteous, a beacon of light for the Gentiles, and a source of hope for the troubled. All who dwell on earth would bow before him. The wisdom of the Lord of Spirits revealed him, for he was the one who would judge the hidden matters, whose word could strike down kings and shatter the power of the strong. The vision turned to judgment. Enoch saw the head of days take his seat on the throne of glory, where the books of the living were opened. The hearts of the holy were filled with joy, for their prayers had been heard and their blood accounted for. In that vision, Enoch beheld an endless fountain of righteousness, and all who thirsted came to drink and were filled with wisdom. But for the sinners, there was only terror. The Son of Man, seated on the throne of glory, would judge their deeds. The heavens would be transformed, and the earth made a place of blessing for the elect. But for the sinners, judgment awaited. They would be eradicated from the earth. The kings and the mighty would be handed over to the righteous, their power broken. They would plead for mercy, but find none. He saw the instruments of this judgment. In a deep, gaping valley, he witnessed kings and mighty ones cast into a fiery abyss. He saw immense iron chains being forged. "For whom are these chains being prepared?" he asked the angel of peace. "These are for the hosts of Azazel," the angel replied. "They will be used to cast them into the abyss of total condemnation. On that great day, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Phanuel, would seize them and throw them into the burning furnace, the Lord's vengeance for their unrighteousness. He saw the floodgates of heaven and the fountains of the earth opened, the waters merging to destroy all who had embraced the darkness. He saw the aftermath. The head of days swore an oath to never again destroy all who dwell on the earth in such a way, setting a sign in the heavens as a pledge. The vision then leaped forward in time. He saw 70 shepherds given charge over the sheep humanity who slaughtered more than they were commanded, abandoning the flock to lions, tigers, and wolves. The house of the sheep was brought down, its tower burned. He wept for the slaughtered sheep. He saw new lambs born, their eyes open, who cried out to the deaf flock. He saw a great horn grow on one sheep, who fought back against the ravenous birds of prey. Finally, the Lord of the sheep himself appeared, his wrath a burning fire. He struck the earth, and it opened to swallow all the beasts and birds that had tormented his flock. The blinded sheep were judged and cast into a fiery abyss. A new, grander house was built, and all the remaining sheep, now pure white, were gathered inside. Their eyes were opened, and they beheld the goodness surrounding them. From them, a white bull with great horns was born, and all creatures feared him. The generations were transformed until they all became white bulls, and the first among them became a lamb, which grew into a mighty beast with great black horns. The Lord of the sheep rejoiced. And then, Enoch awoke from the final vision, the totality of history, from the fall of angels to the final redemption, swirling in his mind. He was back in his own time, a man burdened with the knowledge of all that was, and all that would ever be. He called his son Methuselah, and all his family. His voice was heavy with the weight of eternity. "Hear me, my sons," he began, his eyes seeing not just their faces, but the countless generations that would follow. "Love righteousness and walk in its ways. Do not approach it with a divided heart. I have seen that violence will increase upon the earth, but it will be uprooted and destroyed. Yet unrighteousness will rise again, doubling in its intensity. A great punishment will come from the heavens, and the Holy Lord will bring judgment. But after the destruction, the righteous will arise from their slumber, and wisdom will be granted to them. The roots of wickedness will be cut off, and goodness will fill the earth." He laid out the history of the world in 10 great weeks, a cosmic calendar of sin and salvation, ending with a great eternal judgment and a new heaven, brighter than the first, where sin would be no more. "Do not let your spirit be troubled by the times ahead," he told them, a strange calm settling over him. "The Holy and Great One has set appointed days for all things. The righteous will rise from their sleep and walk in eternal goodness and grace." His final words were a plea and a promise, a distillation of everything he had learned on his impossible journey. He spoke to his children, but also to all of humanity, across all time. Seek righteousness, choose a life that is set apart, and walk in the ways of peace. In doing so, you will live, and your days will be prosperous. Hold fast to my words, for I know that sinners will try to lead men astray, to urge them to forsake wisdom. Do not give in. Woe to those who build their lives on deceit, for they will be overthrown. Woe to you, the rich, who trust in your wealth, for you have forgotten the Most High. But be hopeful, you who walk in righteousness, for soon the sinners will perish before you. Great joy awaits you, as glorious as the joy of the angels in heaven. Enoch, the 7th from Adam, the man who walked with God, had delivered his message. He had been a simple scribe, a man of parchment and ink, who was lifted into the heart of creation and shown the terrifying, beautiful, and absolute truth of divine order. He had seen the allure of forbidden knowledge and the devastating price it carried. He had witnessed the pain of a corrupted world and the unyielding promise of its cleansing. He had walked through fire and darkness to bring back a single, burning ember of hope. What, then, is the lesson from this cosmic drama? It is that the pursuit of knowledge without wisdom, of power without righteousness, is the shortest path to ruin. The watchers fell not merely because they desired, but because they believed their divine knowledge entitled them to transgress the fundamental order of creation. They sought to elevate humanity, but instead unleashed a plague of pride, violence, and despair. Their story serves as an eternal warning. that true strength lies not in the secrets we can uncover, but in the moral discipline to respect the boundaries that protect us from our own worst impulses. Righteousness is not a passive state, but an active choice to walk a difficult path when easier, darker roads are offered. In the end, every action is recorded, every sin is weighed, and the universe, in its grand and patient design, ultimately bends toward justice. The greatest wisdom is not found in the stars or in forbidden arts, but in a humble heart that walks faithfully before its Creator, content with its place in the grand, mysterious, and sacred order of things.